Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, I am so excited because I'm having a conscious conversation with such a beautiful soul, a dear friend, Amanda Pham. Now, there are some topics that we touched on that are dear to my heart. Well, all of the topics are dear to my heart, but there are a few of them that the way that she approaches this from the wisdom standpoint and from a service standpoint, I have not heard anyone approach it like she does. So as excited as I am to get to the video, I would love to give a little bit about Amanda. This way, not only can you get a feel for who she is and what she does, but also you can get a little sneak peek preview on some of the beautiful topics that we touched on in our co-creation. Amanda's very own journey of embodiment is an invitation for others to step fully into who they truly are on an emotional, spiritual, and physical level. She is an embodiment coach and supports women in feeling radiant again. Amanda is here to remind us to embody all that we wish to experience. With mindfulness and self-care practices, she guides others back home to themselves. With her help in addressing the three pillars, mindfulness, movement, and nutrition, those that work with her discover new levels of self-love and confidence with their health, their bodies, and themselves. With that, I will not waste any more time. Here is the video.
That sounds perfect. That's like definitely up my alley. So thank you for being such a beautiful expression of an invitation to invite all of us into awareness.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. As you were sharing that, I was getting chills. So I thank you for being here, and it is definitely my pleasure. So there is one thing that it just dawned on me. There's many things that we will talk about, but there is one thing that stands out the most, which is your movement, everything that you when I feel like when I think about you, I think about heart-centeredness and so much more, but I figured we could do like this 30-second minute movement dance situation going on, and then we can go into a conversation.
I love the choice of music.
Thank you. I want to stop showing audio. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking like I'm connecting to someone who loves movement so much, and I figured what a better way to start it off with some movement of some sort. And I think back to every time that we connect on Together We Ascend, and there's those moments when we're ready to just, the music plays and we're just dancing. And so I absolutely love it and resonate so much with movement.
Thank you. That was so much fun. I've never experienced someone else giving me that experience.
Oh, well,
I'm usually the one instigating. It's like we should definitely plan it. We should tell people, and it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling full.
I'm
feeling full and very heart-centered. I experienced over the weekend a lot of soul fulfilling new experiences. And it was so much fun. Like, have you ever experienced a shamanic drum circle?
Not specifically a shamanic drum circle, but a drum
Mm.
circle. I would love for you to elaborate on that a little
Oh
bit.
my God, it was so much. So we had a shaman there who was facilitating and guiding us through
Mm.
ancestral kind of rituals. And
Hmm.
he created drums, like he handmade these drums. And he doesn't make them anymore, so it's actually very powerful. And we were in a teepee, and he took us on a journey with these drums, with just the beating of our hearts, with just the rhythm, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you close your eyes, and it's beautiful to be in that space because other people start to kind of mend into it, and you can just start hearing humming, and you can start hearing singing, and you can hear other people going a little faster or slower, and then
Mm.
you feel your inner world kind of just bringing things up for you. Like me, for experience, there was a portion where we connected with the water element. So we did fire and water and earth and air with the water element. It was just so juicy. It was so feminine, and everyone was
Mm.
kind of like swaying a little. And that's just, ah, I loved it.
Yeah, that sounds so magical. So, were you guys sitting, or could you stand, or
We're sitting, and there was an invitation to stand, but you
okay?
didn't have to. Yeah, it was a lot
Uh,
of fun.
yeah, and that's so awesome that so people were in a way kind of like not chanting, but they were humming, or how did you describe it? So there's like sound and movement,
So that
all of
So it's all of it. It was all of it. And obviously, you know me, all about embodiment and being in the body. So I was
Yeah.
all for it. One, it was a new experience. I had no idea what I was going into. And I feel like everyone should search
Mhm.
out for new experiences because it stretches you. You kind of get to know a
Mm.
version of yourself that maybe you've forgotten about or you just didn't know. And going into this, I was like, I'm confident, I'm social, I can do this. But I was questioning it, you know? But stepping into it is like, no, this is a version of me, this is who I am. And I embodied that. I came into the circle, I was comfortable with sharing, I was open hearted. And so I feel like new experiences tend to cater to that.
Mm.
I don't
I
think I answered your question. I don't
No,
think I
no,
answered
no.
it.
It's so perfect. I think you did answer it.
Okay.
Because you know, that just sparked. I'm just so curious. I agree with that 100%. It's like, in a way, I've had my own. Um, I think this is a common saying, but you know, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and in that sense, sometimes for individuals, doing something new could seem a little uncomfortable getting into it. And on my own journey, I think there was definitely some layers of, I'm not sure what to call it, but I'll just say, you know, being uncomfortable and not right off the bat being fully open to be able to just be expressive of myself.
Yeah.
And so I would be curious to know, has your journey been like right off the gate, you were just smooth selling, here I am, or
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. No, absolutely not. I was like terrified. I used to be very shy, very introverted. I still think I am here and there, but it's a balance, you know, we harmonize within ourselves and then we show up as is.
Mm.
But I definitely did not start off confident and reassured and grounded. It was all through life, part of my path. I, I what kind of snowballed me into the experience of self-awareness and spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it. My journey was that I became very sick. I had a disease that I was battling. It was an autoimmune disease where I gained a lot of weight. It was hard for me to learn things because of inflammation in the body. My memory, I used to forget a lot of things very, very easily, and I couldn't walk. I used to use a walker, and it was very painful. Like, oh, there's so much pain in my body, these nerve pains, and I was just told by Western society that it's time to take medication and there's no cure for it, right? And I
Mm.
was very young when this happened. I don't think I was even 20 yet when all of this was happening. I must have been 18 or 19.
Wow.
And I got really depressed. I really started to question why this was happening to me. And then, you go through the basic things like, like history, genetics, environment, and then you realize, okay, so it's happening to me. What can I do about it? And I tried the medication, like the Western medication. I did even injections for it because I was young, I was ignorant. I didn't do my own research. But it was time to, and then I found the medicine of movement. And it started with just going on walks and then going to the gym, even though I was told like the gym is going to be harmful for your nerves and stuff like that. But I was like, no, I actually think like after the soreness, I feel better than I did before. So I kept going. And then I found yoga and I found dancing and I found lots and lots of play. And then I started to feel better. And I stopped all the medication and I was still feeling even more better. And obviously meditation and self-awareness and all of this juicy stuff that everyone should be aware of. And I got better. And I am here today because of those nudges of asking why and how can I take ownership of this and how can I create and change my reality to what I want it to be. And I found the love of my life.
Oh, I got chills as you were saying that story. Wow. It just goes to show like the work that you've put in, because from my knowing you, it's like it's the opposite of that. And I'm sure this is the same way for everyone and where they're at when they're shining. They've had their journey to experience. And I love that movement was essentially the medicine. I'm sure there's many other factors to it, but there's many things on the journey of self-realization that people can get into, like yoga. I guess that's a form of movement as well, meditation. But to simply say, because I think there's a lot, when you talk about qigong and yoga, it incorporates movement. Even dancing is a form that you can get within. And so I think actually it wasn't until, other than people talking about yoga or qigong, like you brought into the awareness of how profound movement can be on all expressions that you could move. And when I think about like how can, I think a common question we might ask ourselves is like, how can I raise my vibrations? And just to simply put music on or not and just be yourself and dance and move, that alone is it's like so multi purposeful. Like it can be a medicine, it can be a vibrational raiser, it can be so many things. And then not to mention that you can, like the feel that you create of that joy can really attract others and really basically offer them an invitation to feel that energy that is being flown around, and you just spark them to really start to dance. And it's just this beautiful service that I feel is, I don't want to say underrated, but just from my reality has not been spoken about very much.
Yeah. Such a beautiful summary of the simplicity of movement that sometimes we forget about it. Even just walking is medicine. It's movement. It's walking meditation, walking for the body. It's great for your feet. It's such a pillar experience and medicine for me in every regard because of my journey, my earlier journey, like having so much pain like that. I had to move just a little bit. The inflammation caused a lot of struggle to move. So even rounding my wrist like this was hard, but eventually it got so much better, right? Because I was aware that it's going to help. I was aware that it's just energy that is stuck that needs to be moved, just like sadness in your body needs to be cried out, just like anger in your body needs to be screamed. you know, like where it's all releasing somehow. And I must have been holding on to so much tension and perhaps pain or hidden trauma or all of those things that I realized even breathing is micro movements. So breath work is so powerful. Taking deep breaths for yourself are little love notes.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even think about the micro movements of breath. I know breath is profound, but to think about it from that perspective, everything is like involves movement to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I was thinking about is how for some their routine is that they get up in the morning and they have to go to a job and sit for about 8 hours, and then they come back and then they want to just to, because of the energy it takes to be doing something like that, they just want to sit and relax. And then after sitting and relaxing, they go to bed. And so minus like getting up to go to the bathroom and going to the car and walking from your office space, there's really not that much movement involved. And I'm sure there are many factors as to why an individual can be feeling disconnected or feeling like something is off. But I think just on this topic, one of the low-hanging fruits is how little movement that the individual is incorporating into their routine.
Bingo.
Yes. So what would you what advice would you give for individuals who are experiencing something like this? Yeah, I'll leave it like that.
Okay. I love this because I'm a very tangible action taker kind of person. I love being in the body. So I love this. Great question. Everyone is capable of some form of movement. Like I said, even your breath is movement, right? So going back to your example of like you wake up, you go straight to work, you get in the car, you sit, you go straight to work, you sit in an office job for 9 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is, you come home, you're exhausted from the stagnation and the fatigue of your brain because you're probably using your brain more than anything else at work. So you feel awful because of stagnation. You feel awful because the energy in your body that wants to be moved isn't moving. So it's like stuck somewhere. And then you feel like tension in your neck, maybe because you're bending down and looking at your laptop. Maybe because your hands are a little too high or too low. And like personally, I've dealt with that myself too. And there are very, very simple things that you can do. One, you can set a timer. Every hour, just stand up. Go to the washroom, go downstairs, go grab your cup of coffee, go stretch. That's something I still do to this day if I'm sitting for more than an hour. So if we hit an hour mark, we're standing up to stretch.
Okay.
It's not okay. Your body's gonna thank you for it later. And you just feel more alive and more present in your connections when you're moving. So I say set a timer for every hour and just get up. Even if you're just gonna walk in a circle in your room, come sit back down. Something else that I love is that if you're sitting often and it's a struggle to stand up, you can do it with me. Feet planted on the floor. Sit up straight. And what you do is put your hand on your chest and you're gonna round your lower back, kind of like your belly button's getting pushed in without your chest rolling. And then you're gonna arc your lower back, like you're pushing out your belly button. And you're gonna do that again at your own pace. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Because what you're doing is you're alleviating the pain as you're sitting.
Oh wow.
So you can, even as you're doing like this podcast and this recording and stuff, if you're sitting too long, you're noticing a little tension there, you start to like move and stuff. That's great for sitting. Even if you're in the car, you can do that. And you'll feel 100 times better by the end of the day.
I love that. And it just dawned on me when I did that exercise, that I just realized when I've sat for long periods of time, naturally, like I was just wanting to like move around, or like if it's not my lower waist or whatever it is. And so I would
Something.
be, yeah, so I would be curious to know, is there anything that you can touch on in regards to like the natural intelligence of the body speaking to you, and that, like I was sharing, like I was just naturally not even thinking about it, wanting to move. Can you speak to that at all?
Great question, insightful. Absolutely. Your body is absolutely very, very intelligent. Our awareness of it is what matters, right? It's always talking to you. Your body is always talking to you. So feeling like itchy and ignoring it, don't, like, scratch yourself. Feeling a little tense in your back or your shoulder, and you just want to go like that, do it. Like if you feel those little aches and sores from sitting too long, your body is talking to you. It's like, it's time to get up. It's time to move a little. I need to move. You're going to feel so much better. Fatigue in your face is another thing. Like a lot of times when we're working, our face is very still. Maybe we might yawn for more air, but there's this stiffness in our face when we're so focused sometimes. And it happens, right? It's just human. It's part of your experience. Smile. Smile or massage your face or do the tapping. It brings movement back into your body. Right? So above the eyebrow, I feel you. Beside your eye, I'm here. Under the eye, I will release you. Below the nose, this is good for me. Under the chin, I hear you. Collarbone, thank you for being with me. It's tapping. Kind of reassures your nervous system that you're here and you're aware of its nudges and that you're getting to it, so that you don't hold up and build up on the tension you feel.
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
There we go. Like you. I mean,
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really, of course, when I feel into it after you share it, I can see the connection. But before, I really didn't have a conscious connection with movement in the nervous system. And as well as that's one way that the breath can also calm the nervous system down. So if you're like consciously moving and consciously breathing, it's double time. Or if you're consciously tapping and breathing, yeah, that was really great. Is that something, if I recall, something that you offer for your services? You're a movement coach, or how would you describe that? And would you mind, the question is this something that can be experienced if individuals were to be coming to you for sessions? And yeah.
Absolutely. Great question. I am an embodiment coach.
Okay.
Because I believe in embodying all of you, all the things that you desire to be, all the things that your higher self is calling you into, all of the higher vibration that you wish to withhold. So an embodiment coach. And currently I'm only working with women, but I would love to open it up to also men. Yeah. It's very intuitive and empathetic, what I do. It's a huge invitation of coming into
All right. Sorry, something is going on with the internet. That's a huge invitation for, that's what I last heard.
An invitation to come into your body, to be your most authentic self. So I have an array of toolkits in my tools in my toolkit, and tapping is something that might be experienced, meditation, movement, workout plans. Even I might even work out with you. That's always fun. And a huge thing is absolutely dancing, because I also invite a lot of people into their feminine energy. And we're very out of it when we're working, when we're stagnant, when we're still. And so dancing is a huge thing, as well as self-pleasure and the things that make you feel good and alive in your body.
I love
That
that.
was a lot.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, that really sounds profound, because actually so often I encounter those who spend a lot of time outside of their body, or part of their process in stepping further into their presence is being more embodied. You know, there's many reasons why that is, and so I think that's really such a beautiful service that you're offering in many ways. But for one, I have never heard anyone offer a service to help people be embodied, and like, I think for me, actually, that was my thing. Like, it was all about, like, I just needed to ground more. That I kept hearing that, and of course grounding is another way of embodying, but I've been definitely making more of a conscious effort at being embodied. And it's interesting because, you know, in my case, my not being so embodied came from, like, being so on my awakening, I was at such a low place. Like, I guess I had a very traumatic experience. And so it was like so easy for me to want to just disconnect from the physical realm, if you will, you know, and just to be into just I call it the I am presence, or, you know, anything outside of the body. And then it finally came back full circle the other day, and I had a whole death and rebirth experience, where basically it was time for me to sit with this and see, like, okay, now it's time to no longer physically bypass, and to be more embodied, and to really harmonize the physical and the spiritual aspects of my reality. So thank you so much for offering this service, even if it is just for women at this time. It's definitely needed, in my opinion.
Wow. I do truly believe that we're here to ground in our higher selves in this reality, because I know there's also a majority of people who believe we're here to ascend and go up, but in this body, right? That means your body is your foundation. If you don't feel good in this body, there's something to check in with, there's something to heal, there's something to move. And I think that's really the anchoring key here. I mean, I also had a very traumatic experience for my awakening, and it was a very low point. I was definitely out of my body, stressed, worried for all of these million and one reasons. For some reason, I was in high school, and I was having this like meltdown. But you know, like, I came out of it, and there's so many lessons. There's so many things that you wish to share and teach to everyone else, because you know it would be supportive. But instead of making them listen to me, I'd rather be an embodiment, an invitation of it. I'm not going to tell you to change your lifestyle, but I'm going to show you how I'm changing mine. And if you're curious, I'll share. I like the gentle approach.
Yeah, that totally, spoken like a true embodied ascended master. I think that's such a wise that's wise right there, in my opinion. I think it took me a while to feel in resonance with that being my truth as well. It's like embodiment is the way to go, rather than trying to push your agenda, even if you do have the greatest intentions to aid someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm the smartest person ever. I have all the answers. You should listen to me. Like, that's gonna work.
Yeah. You're doing the wrong thing. Let me tell you how to do it correctly. And yeah.
Stop. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
God, and don't forget to play and have fun with it. It's a part of our journey. This is just a beautiful, huge game.
I think you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, there's so many profound truths, but really to not only intellectually understand, but to play and have more fun and to be more joyful in your life, but to embody it, it's such the world of difference from living this stressful life to one with more grace and ease and like the flow of everything. You know, if you're searching for what you need to do for your service, or you're trying to know like what you need to do next, if you're just in that frequency, like things come to you effortlessly. And so I would be curious, has that been your experience?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I feel like it has been my experience, because I do receive what I want to manifest. I'm trying to manifest and embody, and it doesn't come right away, right? You ask, you manifest, and the human brain is like, it's gonna come tomorrow, or it's not happening, or it's not real.
Yeah.
But it can come like a week later, a year later, 5 years later, and you're like, oh, it worked. It's working. I just have to continue to be anchored in who and what I am, and be in integrity to these desires and myself and source. And I think, like a huge thing for me is asking people, what are your values? Because that's important, right? That's who you are. That's who you want to be. That's who your higher self is trying to embody here in this frequency, in this reality. And if you forget, there will be others that will support you back. But if you forget, you come back to it yourself. Ask yourself, what are your values? What's important to me? How am I out of alignment? How am I making the right decisions that is to fulfill my purpose and my life here? And you start to attract the things, the people, the environment, the experience that is meant for you. So I like the tangible actions, because like sometimes we're a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
let's just sit still and meditate in a room for like 5 hours and it'll come. Which is, yeah, we can do that, and other things.
Yeah, I think I 100% resonate with that. In my opinion, like I first came across The Secret and the Law of Attraction, and from what I can recall, because it was so long ago, they didn't really talk about taking actions. It was just like, think about it, envision it, let it go, and it will come to you. And it's my understanding in this now moment that action is actually part of the recipe of seeing it. And so I would actually be curious, because this is an interesting topic. For someone who's manifesting, and let's say it does take a week, a month, or 5 years, what advice could you give to someone about staying with it, not losing the faith, if you will, that their manifestation has come true? Or, does that make sense? I kind of said that wrong.
It makes sense. No, it makes sense. Great. It's a great question. When there's one way to go, it's when we manifest, we also need to practice detachment. Because our human mind, like I said, it's like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it coming? And then fear starts to bubble in, right? So as we manifest, as we use what like The Secret and Law of Attraction taught us, Abraham Hicks taught us, like you meditate, you visualize the things that you are wanting, you desire, from a space of detachment. And I find from personal experience that the more we are able to detach from wanting our desires, the faster they actually come. Detachment. And it's a little difficult of a concept for the mind to hold, right? Because it's like holding two perspectives. It's like, you can be right, but I feel like you're wrong, but I feel like I'm right. And at the same time, we're both right, because we're honoring ourselves. It's like that kind of idea. So in manifesting, visualizing for sure is supportive of it. Feeling like you actually have it already, because we're multidimensional beings. So I can feel into the 20 houses that I'm going to have, all the keys that I'm bumbling with. Like I can feel into that energy. And be excited about it and happy about it. And it feels so good to have shelter, to have space, to host, to have friends over, and all of this good, juicy stuff, with a beautiful lake in the back, and and nature and grass where we can roll around and do yoga and play and barbecue, all of these things I can feel into, and it feels so good. It feels so good. I feel like I'm actually there physically. And then detach from it. It's okay that it's not happening now, because in some timeline, in some time frame, it's very real in holding faith. Faith is a huge one. Having faith, because when we're manifesting our dreams, our goals and desires, and we don't see it yet, again, the human mind is like, let's give up, let's just do something else now, maybe that will work, and sometimes that might be the case, but sometimes it's just the lack of fear and not believing in your truest essence, that you are worthy, that you are worthy of your desires, that you are worthy of your desires. You don't need your desires, but you are worthy of them.
I love that. It's when you were sharing that, it's just, I think about kind of how when you said like to the mind, it's a little bit challenging at first. Maybe you didn't say that exactly, but I'm using my own words. It's like thinking about how society is set up in a way of like, you get instant gratification now. You don't even have to wait for the movies. You can instantly download. You can instantly. So there's a lot of training in so many aspects of our society that you get things right away. And so when you have something like this, where you need to be patient with it, it goes against everything that you basically have been training yourself to experience. So it definitely requires that faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you actually brought in the whole idea of the society and instant gratification. That's another personal practice of mine. If I notice that I'm starting to get like annoyed or irritated, that's also your body talking to you. It's like, okay, maybe you're feeding yourself too much dopamine. How can you slow it down? How can you let your body reset by itself? Because the thing about our happy hormones is it's like a gate, right? There's a certain amount and there's a gate to it. And once you open the door and you feel a lot of it and all of it, you feel drained because it's recycling right now. And so we feel the whole crash. Like, okay, what else can I do to feel more? Should I eat more chocolate? Should I watch more porn? Should I watch more Netflix? Should I binge something? All these things like dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. But your body actually needs this space to reset. You need to slow down. You need to take a breath. You need to go to nature, take a walk. You need to replenish naturally. And it's so important. I feel like our society needs it. So my personal practice is if I notice in myself with like morning rituals and journaling and such that I'm starting to get irritated at someone, at something, it's like, okay, slow down. Why? Am I doing too much? Am I consuming too much? Am I thinking I can do too much? Like it's just too much, right? And so checking in with self and taking that breath and with compassion, of course. Maybe you need the space to yourself because it's hard to be around other people when you realize you're having like a dopamine crash because of all of the consumptions. Being with self for a little bit might help.
I love how you brought that back to the body, like correlating that when you feel irritated or if you're feeling, this the dopamines that you're creating. And so once again, taking that movement, and if you need to go outside, take the breaths, whatever it is that resonates with you in that now moment. It's such a beautiful recipe to just simmer things down and get rebalanced, if you will.
Yeah, reharmonizing, rebalancing, 100%. It's a blueprint that I've been given. It's a blueprint that I've been given that I've been copy and pasting in every parts of my life, because there's categories in your life, right? There's social, there's personal growth, there's finances, there's business. Like you have all of these categories in your life that you want to fulfill, that you want it in a certain way. And so how can I copy and paste the blueprint of movement medicine, of healing self, of feeling better into these places? So like your first question earlier was like, how, if you were going to work, how can you implement feeling better in your body, or how can you stretch and whatever? And there are ways, there's always a way. We just have to open ourselves up to receiving the guidance. That can be in a podcast, that can be in a friend, that can be in an inspiration of signing up for something, it's always there.
Yes. I love that. One thing that kind of just dropped in, and I would be curious to, once again, to know your perspective, and perhaps it's a subcategory of detachment, um, which is expectations on manifestations. Can you share, is that the same thing for you and it's just a different word, or can you share a little bit about having expectations and what that does for us in the manifestation process?
I feel like expectation has a very bad rep. Because like you said, it's like a subcategory. Having expectations with your manifestation is really your desires speaking to you. But having very strong expectations because of your desires and manifestation is definitely something in your shadow self that needs to be addressed, right? Because it's like, no, like I'm really expecting this to happen because I did X, Y, and Z. But can you slow down and realize you're very, very attached to it? Like, it's, if I don't get it, I'm going to be ruined. If I don't get it, I'm going to have so much shame. If I don't get it, then people are going to laugh at me. And there's your shadow self, right? There's something to be healed. It's because I feel unworthy. Because I feel unworthy. And it still happens for me. Like, I'm not some ascended master or anything. Like, just yesterday, I was like, am I gonna be going into this drum circle and make a fool of myself? Like,
Yeah.
is that okay right now? And like, I had some inner work to do before leaving, right? That's not true. My expectation is that I'm gonna be so confident, a ball of light, and I'm gonna support everyone. I'm gonna be super happy. And at the same time, if that doesn't happen, can I be okay with it? Can I just make it my own experience? Can I just allow it to be what it is? Can I be grateful for who I am now? I think gratitude is the antidote for expectations.
Ah, I love that. So it basically comes back to detachment, which I love that you chose that word to basically talk about that part of the manifestation journey. And yeah, thank you so much for being transparent. And because I think that's so important to well, everything that you just shared, but similarly to you, it's like we all have moments where we're fluctuating, and having as much compassion in that moment and being curious with why it is that it's coming up and getting to the root of it, and then letting go of the detachments, transmuting anything that might be self-limiting, and moving forward. I think that's such a beautiful, not only a beautiful truth to have embodied, if you will, but also I remember when I first was waking up, it seemed like, well, perhaps there is a point like when you're enlightened status and you're like Buddha, if you will. But I was like always wondering, man, these people have been on this journey for X amount of times. Like I bet you anything, like they're perfect. They don't falter in their faith. They don't. Everything is just like rainbows and unicorns, and that's where I want to be. But it's like, at least from my experience, I still have them from moment to moment, and I think it's like taking the opportunity to look at it and move, transmute it and move forward in a higher vibrational way is the process. And for right now, I can only feel like it's the only process to move forward to get to that point where perhaps one day there is no more wavering in your faith and so forth.
And then can you also be detached from the idea that you might never stop wavering?
Yes.
So we're gonna nip that in the butt.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. Detachment. Oh.
But I love that you're also sharing like a bit of your journey and your human side, if you will. Because it's so important. I feel like we're here to teach what we experience. You're here to teach what you're experiencing. You're finding lessons from your own experience because you've been through it. You felt your feelings, you felt your shadows, you continue to feel them when they come because life happens. And And then you get excited when you're out of it to teach it, to share it, to express it. And so no one's journey is going to look the same ever. We may have overlaps, sure, but your voice will always be different than mine. How you express it and share it will always be different than mine, and special and unique. And I speak to that from experience, because I've also experienced that. Like, all these people, they're so ahead of me. They've got podcasts, they've got all these clients, they got all these videos, they have all these posts, these followers, and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, take a second, that's not your journey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Love yourself, accept yourself, and you do it over and over again, like, because life happens in seasons. And so believing that you're always going to be ecstatic and passionate about life is probably not the case, because the only way to feel those things is if you felt the duality, the opposite, right? Like, I must have felt anger and sadness and uncertainty to feel so confident now.
Yeah. It seems like it circles back to basically self-love, right? And yeah, I'm just like reflecting on everything that has been talked about. It's like self-love is at the core of all of it. But I'm just curious to know, if you were meeting with someone and they brought up their attention that their issue is self-love, like, how do you find that self-love, or what tools would you give them to find that self-love?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because I've definitely worked with people who have struggled finding self-love. And I think the first thing is to create a safe container, right? Because if you don't feel safe in your environment or the person you're with, you're not gonna let down your walls even a little bit. I'm not asking you to take down the whole brick wall, but let's remove one piece and see how you feel. So I feel if you're struggling with self-love, we're gonna ask you, why? Can you say out loud, I love myself? I'm gonna ask you why. And I'm gonna let you feel your feelings. I'm gonna let you feel it. A lot of times emotions come up and people can't explain in words just yet why they don't feel it. A lot of times they just start to cry, or they get angry and they stonewall a little bit because their nervous system is like, I'm not safe, I gotta keep myself okay. And slowly we just start to dislike ourselves because we're pulling away from our true essence, because we're trying to protect ourselves from other people's judgments or programs that perhaps guardians, environment, family might have given to us. So it's a really hard journey to be able to open up to someone else if you do not love yourself. And it's even harder to admit out loud to someone that you don't love yourself. And so it's a very deep journey. I don't think it's a one-way road for anyone with that at all. But I think the starting of it, especially if you're a guidance or a coach or a mentor or a friend, a family member, if you really want to find out why this person doesn't love themselves, it's you first create the safe space for them to express what it is that came up for them, what kind of trauma was inflicted upon their journey that made them think this way. And oftentimes it comes back to, your childhood traumas, right? And everyone's looks different. Like I shared with you earlier, I experienced depression because I felt I wasn't capable. Like, I can't walk, I have to rely on so many people, I'm only in high school, I'm so young. And I didn't love myself at the time. I actually dreaded being in my body, and I dreaded being here, and like I hated myself. Oh, that sounds so
Yeah.
that feels so like long time ago, it didn't feel real for a second.
Yeah.
So it's different for everyone, I think.
I love that. I just want to share with you from my perspective, a male's perspective. Hearing you share everything that you've shared today. I know you only work with women, but it feels like, I imagine if I were coming to you for the things that I use as example questions, it feels so nourishing. It feels so held. It feels like you create that loving space, and it feels, and I love that you, because I feel like it's someone in that space of walling up, like that approach of taking one piece down first, and let's just go moment by moment, step by step, little by little, addressing the feelings, all that. It feels like such a nourishing way to work through such a deep dive. And so my I guess my reflection or my feedback to you is like, thank you so much for being who you are and for offering that, because it feels amazing, for lack of better words, and that doesn't even capture what I'm trying to say. So
Thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate your existence.
so much.
I do plan on opening up and working with men. So if you're interested,
Okay.
I'm here. I think it's because I've done like pro bonos with men. So I am aware of like men's work and holding space, and even in my own relationship with my partner, right? You learn a lot. You're able to hold space. There is a lot of guidance that can be given there for sure. And I feel like a lot of the times for people, for men especially, is needing the safe space to feel your emotions. Because oftentimes in your masculine, in your male experience, you're holding yourself up. And you don't know when it's time to feel your sadness or your anger, because what if someone sees me? What if I can't hold myself up anymore if I do this? And I understand there's this huge burden on men. Like you hear like toxic masculinity in society and stuff, but I actually feel like men actually have it pretty hard.
Yeah.
As a collective right now, because you don't know, not you specifically, but it's a little confusing as to where to show your emotions and where to not, because you still need to be that strong container for yourself, for others, and at the same time, who's gonna hold me? Where do I get to be held? Where do I get to be vulnerable? Where can I feel safe?
Yes. You know, that's such a beautiful point to bring up, which is for so long, using my terminology, right?
Sure.
The false masculine energies have been so present, and really putting down the divine feminine, which you can look at that as honoring the emotions. And so for someone to be having, I'll just say, false masculine programs, right? Let's just say not feeling like they should honor their emotions because for whatever reason, to have an experience with someone who embodies, like yourself, such a beautiful expression of the divine feminine is like what they would need, because they get that, and your embodiment shows them, even if they're not like, the mind is still like holding them back from expressing, like frequency wise, they are receiving that divine feminine energy, and it's like they realize, oh, this is what it's like to be open, to be loving, to honor yourself. So that's just dropped in another tidbit of confirmation from the universe that if you decide to work with men, like that's awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. I'm buzzing. I feel like we should dance, Stephen. Let's dance.
All right.
Play some music. Let's dance.
What a great way to wrap this up here. Let me pull it up.
Thank you, Stephen, for this beautiful invitation and welcoming. Thank you for existing while I'm existing. Thank you for dancing with me. Thanks for playing.
Right back at you. Thank you so much. This has been fun, and I'm excited to kind of wrap things up with a beautiful movement. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, and I look forward to any future co-creations that may come up.
I'm open. I love it. Thank you so much, Steven.
You're welcome. I love you so much, and until next time.